Now, across Nigeria, the girl child still faces deep-rooted barriers, from issues surrounding child marriage to gender-based violence and limited access to education. Now, government efforts and new gender equality programs do show promise, but the question is gender equity and social inclusion a reality or a mirage? Now, with us via Zoom this morning is Ngozi Jason Nwadinobi. She's a digipreneur and a gender advocate. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Now, across the world and particularly in Africa, we still have issues surrounding the girl child. I'd like to know what would you assess, or from your perspective, how far have we come when it comes to gender equity and inclusion and the girl child in Nigeria?
Well, I think we've made progress, and we're still a work in progress, but we're moving. So I wouldn't say it's a mirage, and but I also wouldn't say that we haven't done much or we haven't made any progress at all. We've made some progress, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
All right. Now, as a gender advocate, you've worked closely with young girls and women. But from your experience, what are the major root causes that still hinder true, gender equity and inclusion in Nigeria, despite the decades of advocacy and policy reforms?
I think, education takes time. They say Rome wasn't built in a day. So Nigeria is a country in Africa, and we know that Africa is deeply rooted in a male-dominated society. So people, even though there's a lot of education going on, gender equity and social inclusion are like buzzwords. Everybody's talking about it, but not everybody believes in it. And then for those who believe in it, there's still some ingrained education in them. There's still some unlearning and relearning that needs to be done, both on both sides, both on the women's side and on the men's side. There's still, because we've been brought up in a certain environment, so we still need to keep digging ourselves out until we come out of that hole.
All right. Now, you've given an overview of what this is, but throw more light on what gender equity and social inclusion really mean in the context of girl child.
All right, let me say, because like I said, these words are like buzzwords. Everybody is talking about gender equity and social inclusion. And I was thinking about this a few days ago. I was thinking about it. And I said, okay, how would you explain to a 6-year-old about gender equity and social inclusion? So this idea came to my head. Let's say maybe we're in the kitchen and there's something we need to get. Let's say the 6-year-old and a friend, they want to get a pack of biscuits that are up on the top shelf, and their hands can't get there. But we have 2 stools. The 2 stools are the same height, but these 2 6-year-olds, or these 2 children, maybe one is 6 years, the other one is 8 years, and the 8-year-old is taller than the 6-year-old. And so if you put the stools that are the same height, of course the taller child will be able to get to the highest part of the cupboard to get the pack of biscuits, but the shorter child will still not be able to reach the pack of biscuits. Now at that particular stage, it's equality. There's fairness, there's equality. You've given both of them exactly the same tool to use, but that tool is still not enough for the shorter child. So equity comes in when you give each person what they need. What the girl child needs may not necessarily be what the boy child needs. So that's what equity is. To provide what each person needs for them to be able to bring in their best, for them to be able to put in their best. So then the social inclusion thing is like there's a new kid on the block. Excuse me. There's a new kid on the block in the neighborhood. A new child comes, or in the school. There's a new child in the school, and the child is feeling uncomfortable. You know, it's a new place, it's a new environment, new faces, new people, and the child is like, you know, second guessing herself. Should I go join the other kids playing, or should I just sit by myself? So the older kids, or the kids who have been in the school longer, they've made friends, they've made formed community, and they're there playing by themselves. Nobody pays any attention to the new child, but somebody notices, oh, there's a new person here, recognizes there's a new person here. Why don't we bring that person in? It doesn't matter whether that new person looks like us. It doesn't matter whether the person is black, white, blue, green, red. It doesn't matter whether the person is a boy or girl or whatever. But there's a new person here. This person is part of our community. We should extend our hand of grace to that person. Bring the person in. Let the person contribute whatever he or she has to our community. So that's the best way I can explain equity, what do you call it? Social inclusion and gender equity.
Now, you made mention earlier that these are buzzwords that, you know, that are being thrown around. People talk about it a lot, but people don't believe in it. And those who, you know, believe in it still need a lot of reorientation and orientation. Now, what reforms would you say are needed to move this idea of gender equity and social inclusion from just a paper policy to actually lived reality?
I know that in some countries in the West, some things have been opened, like in the STEM, in like the STEM industry, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. People generally assume that, you know, the male child is better at such subjects than the female child. Well, that's a discussion for another day. But in order to encourage more girls to come into it, certain things, they'll be having certain competitions. Maybe we should have more competitions and encourage more girls to be part of those competitions. Maybe there should be certain like scholarships for girls only into certain positions or certain courses in schools. We should encourage more women to speak up, because I found out that even in the corporate environment in Nigeria, women tend to be more quiet. Women tend to second guess themselves more than men. Women are always trying to think, should I speak? Should I not speak? If I speak, how would they see me? Would they think I'm proud? Would they think I'm arrogant? Would they think I'm being a feminist? So now people are afraid of being called feminists, because feminism has now become like a negative word, and some women don't want to be associated with that word feminism, even though it's supposed to be a positive word. So we should talk more about it in our schools. We should talk more about it in our workplaces. We should, like you said, we should move more from, you know, the paperwork, and move more from talking more about it to also putting the machinery in place to say we want more people, we want more women to speak up on these matters. Maybe some certain departments or certain units can be set up to handle such things in our places of work, and even in our schools, just to encourage more girls especially, because for us women from a certain age, maybe from 40 years and above, you say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Maybe we've reached a certain point where it will be difficult for us to change our minds about things. But for the young ones coming up, the little girls, the teenagers, the ones who are in their 20s, we need to encourage them to speak up, to be their authentic selves, to be comfortable in who they are and what they can bring to the table, like we like to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Now, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 5 actually focuses on gender equality. Now, do you think Nigeria is on track to meet this gender equality by, say, 2030?
You know, like I said, I think in the past maybe 2 years, um, the Western countries or society generally, I don't want like to always talk about Western countries, but society generally has moved from gender equality to gender equity. And so I explained the first time the difference between gender equality and gender equity. And I also said that we are making headway in Nigeria. We are making headway, but there's still a lot of work to be done. I remember one time somebody told me a few years after I got married, because I have this signature, and my signature has the first three letters of my father's surname in my signature. So after I got married and I was signing something, someone else said, "Is that your signature?" I said yes, and he was looking at me oddly. And I said, "What's wrong with it?" Because I spent months trying to get that signature to be quite right, so that I don't make mistakes. And the person said, "Is that not the last three letters of your father's surname?" I said yes. He said, "Why don't you change it?" I said, "To what?" He said, "You're married now, so your surname, your signature should have some letters from your husband's surname." And I found that so ridiculous. I said, "So you mean this signature that I spent months trying to get it right, so that I don't make mistakes? You want me to change I've changed my name. You now want me to change my signature?" And this person is somebody I respect so much. He's educated, and I was shocked that he was speaking that way. I was really surprised. So I wouldn't say we're not ready, and I wouldn't say that we are ready. We're just moving. We're moving. It's slow movement, but at least there's a movement, and there's hope. Once there's movement, there's hope that better things will come ahead. Because you found now some women leading so many organizations right now. You find that the Fidelity Bank, their MD is a woman. You found that the former the MD or CEO or ED or something, I think ED of Nigerian British Chamber of Commerce was a woman. The last one who left was a woman. You find women heading some really big organizations in Nigeria. So there's a lot of work to be done, but there's movement, and I think there's room for improvement, and we're getting there.
Right. Now, we've seen that activists have called for things like state of emergency over the spike in gender-based violence and issues of femicides, noting issues of poor documentation and weak prosecution processes to these issues. Now, what would you say are the systemic failures that are allowing these impunities to exist, and how can we advocate, or how can advocacy, translate to more robust legal and societal protection for girls?
Sometimes in Nigeria, I noticed that silencing women excuse me, is something that happens quite often. Women are expected to be quiet. Women are expected to be seen and not heard. So when some of these reports are made, first of all, the victims find it hard to go and report these things, because nobody will believe them. Or even when they believe you, they will say it was your fault that it happened. And it's not just strangers who tell you it was your fault. Even family members, friends, neighbors will tell you. I've heard of so many stories where the child's mother flogged her, punished her, and told her it was her fault that this thing happened to her. More than one case. I've heard of several cases where the child's mother, we're talking about little girls, 6 years, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, they will tell the child, "You seduced the man," or "Why did you go to his house?" or "Why did you wear this?" or "Why did you walk this way?" So when these kind of things happen, you find that many people are quiet about it. And I know we've been saying that we need to encourage our girls to speak up when these things happen to them. But it's easier said than done because of the shame that comes with it. So we have to find a way to educate ourselves. When a child or when a lady or a girl, whatever, is bold enough to come out to say, "This happened to me," please don't judge the person. We need to educate ourselves, because there's a lot of education going on everywhere, all over the world, all over Nigeria. When you turn on social media, you turn on the TV stations or channels, you open up your books, newspapers, magazines, there's a lot of education happening. But you cannot be educated when your eyes are closed and your ears are closed. So you need to educate yourself to be able to listen to someone's story without judging the person. I remember somebody some years ago who complained about a very big man who had raped her many years before, and she came out after about maybe 10 years to talk about it, and people were saying, why are you just talking about it now? Why you should have talked about it then? It's happened so long ago, so you should be quiet. And that sentence really made me angry, and many of the people saying this were women. I was so upset. I said, are you the one to tell her when to speak? She had chosen now. Maybe this is the time that is comfortable for her. Maybe she told somebody and the person encouraged her to speak. Let her speak. It's her truth. You can't keep her quiet. So we should stop trying to silence women. We should educate ourselves to listen. Please listen with a compassionate heart. And don't silence her. Don't say it's husband and wife matter. If someone comes to report something to you, if you're at the police station, and a woman comes to report at the police station that this happened to her husband did this to her, or this happened to her daughter, they'll say no, it's a family thing. It's husband and wife matter. Go home and sort it out. Meanwhile, the offense is a criminal one. We need to teach ourselves. Because they say experience is the best teacher. Now in this case, you're the one teaching yourself. You're not waiting for someone to teach you. When you talk to yourself that, okay, from now on, if something happens, I'll be calm, I'll be quiet, I will listen, and I will listen without judgment, so that I can help the person that is talking to me as best as I can. I hope that has answered your question.
Of course.
All right. Now, recently on the social media, we saw a case where a physically impaired girl of 22 years was raped, and, in the process, she got pregnant. But how can all these kind of cases be treated? Who should her family have gone to? And now we know that her family is not so much well-to-do, and that story died down like that on social media. So how do issues like gender-based violence, poor access to education, and, affect the overall development of a girl child?
Wow, I haven't heard that story. That's so sad. Thank God for social media. I didn't hear that story. For people who are active on social media, there are certain stories that we can push out there. These are the kind of stories that when you see, you just keep sharing and sharing and sharing, and then hope and pray that somebody who is able to do something about it gets to hear about it and actually do something. And it's really true that for people who are financially challenged, they might be the ones who suffer the most from these things, and I stand to be corrected. On that statement. But they might just be the ones who may be more challenged when they face things like this. I read a story yesterday on social media. Somebody said somebody invited her, a friend, I think a work friend or something, invited her to his house to watch Netflix, and she just accepted the invite. They went out, they bought food, went to the guy's house. She did not suspect anything, and they were watching TV. After the first movie, the guy now asked that they should watch a second movie, and she thought, no, this is 8:30. If we watch a second movie, I'll be here till 10:30, 11. No, let me go home, And the guy encouraged her, persuaded her to just still wait and watch, and he would take her home or call a taxi for her or something. And she stayed. But while they were watching the second movie, the guy started acting funny, and she got up like, no, please, this is not what I came for. We are friends. And the guy was like, are you stupid? Why do you think you came here? And the girl said, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that's what you had in mind. You should have told me. And she quickly called the taxi and went home. At the end of the day, she just counted how much the guy had spent on her food and sent to the guy. That's when the guy knew that she was serious, and the guy respected her for that. You can imagine if she didn't have the money to send to the guy would have just thought she was paying hard to get or something. Or imagine if she were the type who feels that, okay, the guy has fed me, because there's some girls like that. Once a man feeds her, she feels, oh, I owe him something, because that's what she has been taught. If a man gives you a gift or feeds you or does something for you, anything he asks of you, please give him. You owe him something. So it's really true, and that's a very, very big question, because it's not something that can be handled by just a few minutes talk. All we need to do is to talk to our girls, to be smart, because sometimes I think boys get streetwise faster than girls. Generally, boys become streetwise faster than girls. I think our girls need to be street smart. Imagine a lady who has a job, who is like she has a job, she has her own house, and then somebody whom she considers a friend invites her to his house, and she does not know this guy has ulterior motives. She was just innocent until the guy started acting funny, and she hadn't been fast enough to order a taxi. What if she didn't have money for a taxi? What if she depended on the guy to call her a taxi or to take her home? Only God knows what would have happened. And since then, she learned her lesson, that if any guy that is not my brother or my father invites me to his house, I'm not going. I'm not going anywhere, because he might have ulterior motives. So it's something that we, at least let's start with telling our girls to be smart. Don't just trust blindly. Don't just trust blindly. The money part, that part is something that, it's a very big thing, and it can't be solved in one day or even a year or 2 years or 5 years. But just be confident in yourself. Be confident in yourself, and be careful who you hang out with. That's the best that we can do for now.
All right. Now, my major question is, how do we factor in physically, impaired or physically challenged persons, especially those in rural areas?
Well, we're still coming back to the same thing, that for those who are physically challenged, we should have more compassion for them. Let's say someone who is unable to move herself, properly, we should have compassion on the person, because at the end of the day, the person still gets blamed for whatever happens to her, and I don't know how that happens. I don't know how you can blame somebody who cannot protect herself. How do you even abuse somebody who cannot protect herself? How do you, with all good conscience, go and abuse somebody who can't protect themselves? It's crazy. It's crazy. And then the girl's family goes to the police station to report, and nobody does anything about it, because the family cannot afford to pay them money. Do you have to pay them money? A crime has been committed here, and everybody is quiet. Everybody's quiet. We just have to find a way to protect the vulnerable amongst us. We just have to find a way, because it's
I understand how you feel. But then I'd also like to ask now. First of all, you mentioned earlier that when situations like this arise, you find that even the women, the mothers, the aunties, those around that are also supposed to help them overcome these situations are the ones telling them keep quiet and, blaming them as well for whatever happened to them. So I'd like to know, would you say that women are also enablers of this issue? And I also like to know, what about the men? Don't you think they have a role to play in all of this? And how can this issue be solved between both the men and the women?
Definitely, we women we are enablers, definitely, especially in our part of the world. Women are enablers for reasons that sometimes I try to understand. I'm still trying to understand, because I don't understand it. I'm trying to understand if my child, my daughter, comes to me to tell me that somebody is molesting her, even if it's a close family friend. Why would I blame my child? Especially when that child is young. We women, we need to talk to ourselves, and things are getting better. We don't hear of those cases as much as we used to. So we need to do better. And for the men too, I remember some years ago, a relative of mine, a little boy then, he was like 6 or 7 years old, and he was playing with a child in his class, a girl, and the girl didn't want to be played with. So he would just go and play with the girl, and the girl would like, leave me alone. He didn't like talk any time, and I told him, stop. No means no. It was in class. I went to pick him up. No means no. When she says no, she means no. leave her alone. And teacher was laughing. But I know why I was saying that. So I don't know where men got it that when a woman says no, she just playing hard to get. And then women, if I don't believe in her playing hard to get. If you say no, please let your no be no. If you say yes, let your yes be yes. Don't be trying to meander from place to place. And for the men, even if she says no and you think her no means yes, please move away. Move away. The men need to understand that women are human beings too. Women are not objects to be played with or to be toyed with. So women, just because somebody is a woman and you're a man, doesn't mean that she's less than you are in any way. She may be physically not as strong as you are, but does not make her less of a human being. And we have gone back to that place of education. And not just education from the outside, not just external education, but internal education. Educate yourself. Educate yourself. Know how to behave. Proper behavior towards others. So that you don't go doing something that will end up embarrassing you and then causing pain to someone else. We all need to educate ourselves. All that we know today about gender equity and social inclusion, we didn't know those things because someone threw a book at us. We just saw something, we found it interesting, and we decided to start learning more about it. And that's why we know some of the things that we know today. People need to educate themselves internally and hold themselves accountable and responsible, both men and women.
All right, a very big thank you to you, Ngozika Jason Wadinobi. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
You too. All right, we have come to the end of that conversation on girl child and challenges of existence, gender equity and social inclusion. Now we'll take a short break. When we return, Signature Morning continues.